Okay. Well, actually, I'm going to pause the recording because it'll just have a lot of blank space in the beginning. Okay. I want to welcome everybody. Tom Powell, our chair, will be joining us probably in about a half an hour. He's got a doctor's appointment and couldn't get here in time. And we've got some other people that will be joining us. So, but we need to get started. So I guess the first thing to do is to review the minutes from the last meeting, the January meeting. Has anybody gotten a chance to take a look at them? Well, I should ask, does anybody have any comments, corrections before we take a vote on accepting them?
This is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as is.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Sarah? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. As you know, every year we, oh, hold on, Dan Fucci wants to come in. I'll let him in. Wait for him to get connected. As Dan's connecting. Good evening, Dan. We just really got started. We just approved the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Tom will be joining us in a little while, as other people will too. So,
Okay,
as you know, for this committee to function, we rely heavily on the dues from our municipal members. We have proposed in January that we retain the same level of dues that we have had last year and for several previous years. I did send a notice out to everybody. And as you know, you have the opportunity to withdraw from the committee within those 60 days. And if not, you know, once the committee approves the dues, you're locked in for the next year. I have not received any comments or requests to be removed from the committee. So we are basically ready to take a vote on the dues. Just to remind everybody, the dues would be, it's proportional based on the level of government. So the dues for Nassau County would be $33,575. Each of the towns would pay $10,900. The city of Glen Cove would pay $81.50. And each of the villages, $5,445. Just letting Tom Powell in, he's joining us. Hi, Tom. Can you hear us, Tom?
hello.
Yeah, hi, Tom. We really just got started. We approved the minutes from the last meeting. And we are just about to take a motion for approving the dues for this year. So before we take a vote, is there any discussion on the dues?
This is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. I want to make the motion to accept the dues as is and go ahead and make a vote on it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Second.
Tom seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Tomorrow I'll be sending out the invoices. And as you know, with the villages who have a different fiscal year, we are willing to wait to the beginning of the fiscal year if you wish, in order for you to pay. Make it as easy as possible for you. So thank you very much. Keeps us going for another year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carol DiPaolo, who's going to give us an update on what's been happening with the bacterial levels in Powerhouse Drain subwatershed.
Okay. And are you going to put up the document?
Yes,
Eric?
let me share my screen. And then, hold on a second.
And talk over that. as Eric's doing that, I'll just explain that as we were winding down from doing all of the testing, and that included Rocco on that episode, through Glen Cove Creek into Mill Pond and finding the sewer line break. Just as that line was being prepared or repaired rather, we were starting to see numbers similar to what we were seeing from the broken sewer line in Glen Cove, numbers that were matching what was coming out of the powerhouse drain at the end of Glenwood Road and Glenwood Landing. So that started us on investigating what was happening now in Glenwood Landing. We know, of course, over the course of several years, we've always had a pattern after years of testing where direct samples we've been getting from the powerhouse drain, which you'll see if you look to the left of your screen. 14A is where we're testing right from the outfall that goes into the harbor. So those are where that's the area where the numbers were very high, and we had to do something that was really more strategic planning and how we were going to narrow the focus of what was draining out of that outfall. So Dan Fucci was involved in this and agreed to help us all along the way on Glenwood Road, which is a county road. So Dan, Michelle Lapino McAllister from the coalition, and I, the three of us went through all of these different stations, both on the north side of Glenwood Road, where you'll see a green line, and that's a stream that runs between Kassam, which is the road that goes up toward the top of the screen, running north, and then Glenwood Road, where you'll see the pipes, the red pipes running along the roadway. The point where Kassam meets Glenwood Road, can you put your cursor in that area, Eric? Thanks. That's where you lose sight of the stream above ground. It's all then flowing underground and going out the outfall. We were getting really high as we were testing the circled stations that are numbered. I know they're a little difficult to see here, but those are all of the areas that were getting exceedances in levels of the two indicator bacteria, Enterococci and fecal coliform. And the exceedances, when I say that, again, we're using as a frame of reference the numbers that the Nassau County Department of Health uses when it's making a determination of whether to close beaches, either, after events that could cause high bacteria. There are preemptive closures, but high bacteria closures mean that the bacteria levels for those indicator numbers exceed. I don't know if you want to just flip to the next page, Eric, just so people get a sense of the data and the numbers. You can see that the threshold for ENT would be 104 colony forming units, and for FC or fecal coliform, it would be 1,000. So in many instances, you can see we're getting greater than 6,000. They couldn't even count the numbers of colony forming units. So obviously we have a big problem along Glenwood Road. And those are all of the areas. Each week, Dan and I and Michelle, we would sit down, look at the data, look at where we had tested so far, and make a plan of where it made sense to test again. I know it's a little hard. We gave a description of where those stations lie, but essentially we did narrow the field. And Eric, if you could go back to the map so that we could see the whole of Glenwood Road. And essentially from 14A, or that outfall that goes into Hempstead Harbor, following up Glenwood Road up to people who are familiar with Glenwood Landing. It would be Betty Lane on the north side. You can see it not well marked, but Eric can point to it. Betty Lane is the street on the north side of Glenwood Road that goes towards the head of that stream. Larson is on the south side. So Dan can add to this also, but the three of us spent a lot of time on the street, on the sidewalk, with our heads in these manholes, trying to sort out flows from different pipes, what pipes were in those manholes. It's a very complicated system. You get an idea from all of those pipes, the red lines you see, crisscrossing the roads, coming from different feeder areas in Oyster Bay, what would be the Oyster Bay town's jurisdiction. Dan, do you want to add to that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I can hear you. I think you wrapped it up nicely, Carol. But the issue there is, one of the issues is there is a complex pipe system up there where you actually, in some cases, have two pipes running parallel to one another up and down Glenwood Road in some cases. It appears that when you go up gradient along Glenwood Road, that is to eastward up Glenwood Road, or up the incline along Glenwood Road, that the pipes come out of groundwater, because many of the pipes are flowing at a certain point westward on Glenwood Road. Carol might know where the cutoff is. I don't know if it might be around Larson or.
That is it, yeah. Larson was where we ended, because we know there was no more flow that we could see entering the system other than groundwater. So from the east. Right.
So that's one positive thing we were able to find, because that kind of tells us, an area to work in. I think I think the next step would be to look at some of these town roads that connect into Glenwood Road, and I believe the map that Carol has does show the piping system on some of the town roads and how they connect into the county road. I also believe those pipes have where manholes are located on the town roads as well. So I think there was some discussion on looking for these. Maybe the town of Oyster Bay has their own mapping, which is fine. The more mapping, the better. But I believe you could probably use the existing map to even find points on the town streets to do some of the next round of sampling. Perhaps
which we did actually, Dan. We were able to do it very quickly. I had spoken with the Deputy Commissioner of Environmental Resources, George Baptista, and he's looking for other town maps that may supplement the county map. But you're right, what was mapped on the county map, we saw those manholes that we were thinking about on Glenmore. And just today, we actually did what Dan and I thought would be the next step, and that is going to the feeder roads. Glenmore was one of them. Hard to see here. I don't know if you can see it, Eric, to put your cursor. It's on the south side of Glenwood Road. Comes off of Larson. So if you look to Larson, yep, there it is.
Let me zoom in a little bit more.
So Carol, you're saying you did sampling today of those areas? You started that?
We did, but we had a really hard time getting those manhole covers open. They're different from the ones that were on Glenwood Road. So we were able to get one. We'll get the results tomorrow. But there are a number of manholes, that we did see on Glenmore. We would go back depending on what the results are, and then we need something else to lift those manhole covers. Then we went to Betty Lane on the north side. And if you could move the, yep. To our surprise, we had contacted some of these homeowners previously. Michelle knocked on, one of the residents in the area knocked on their door to ask if we could have access to their yards to get the stream at the head, because we had been testing all the way down where Cassam meets Glenwood Road. What we didn't realize, the stream goes further east than the map indicates. So there, and then I would say it goes past Betty Lane, let's say the intersection, Betty Lane dead ends. So we went to 3 houses along what you would say would be like the cul-de-sac there. And the stream goes east of Betty Lane, probably another 2 properties over, and a little, bring your cursor further west to, yep, in that area, there's an enormous incline beyond that, beyond Betty. And then the stream disappears and it becomes groundwater. But we were able to test the head of the stream. So we'll see what those results are. The point here is just to keep narrowing the focus of what could be adding or what could be the source of the problem, which we suspect would be failing septics. On Betty Lane, we know, and we'll have to pursue this, we were told 1 system failed. Also on Betty Lane, fortunately, one of the residents who was also participating in our habitat restoration project, the Patagonia funded project, is now in the Nassau County septic grant program. The people were so receptive, I couldn't believe it, to our going in their backyards and investigating the problems they're having with the stream, with groundwater. They are beside themselves, and especially with all these storms, it's so swampy in these areas. So they're having a lot of problems, but they were very open to our investigating and going further to do whatever we could to find what the source of the contamination is. So I think that's wonderful news to get that cooperation and collaboration with neighbors, to go in there and do that. So again, these additional samples that we took from the stream and the sample from the manhole on Glenmore, we'll get those results tomorrow. I'll share them with you, Dan, Eric, and Michelle, and I will sit down and figure out next steps. But I think that we have another possibility of what could help us in finding the source of the high bacteria, which there'll be a presentation with Harkin following this. But just wanted to know whether anybody has any questions about what we've been doing.
So,
Carol?
I have a question, have you narrowed it at all? Or are all of these samples bad?
All of the circles on the map are high bacteria.
Mhm.
And we've taken photos of the piping inside the manholes. We're matching them up, matching those photos up with station numbers. We have an idea of, because of what we had done, we knew where we should stop. And essentially, that's what made us make the decision that we couldn't go any further with sampling on Glenwood Road. We've narrowed it between the Shore Road and Larson. We
Right.
know that there's a problem coming from the south of Glenwood Road. And we also know there's a problem coming from the stream between Cassam and Glenwood Road.
So you're sampling where there's flowing water during dry spells.
Yes.
Carol, are the numbers increasing as you go up gradient?
They were, it wasn't that it was increasing, but you would get, they would vary, Rocco, but equally high, if you want to say it that way, in different areas. All those hot spots were really showing contamination. You can look at number 4, for example, Glenwood Landing number 4, greater than 6,000. You can go back to the map and see where that is. We try to give a description, but that's at the corner of Kassam, right at the head of the stream.
So
And then you
there's
can
no
see
one-
further up, excuse me?
I'm sorry, there's no one spot that's a little bit higher than the rest? They're
No.
all pretty consistent? Wow.
Not consistent, they're all over the place, but
Mhm.
way beyond those thresholds that I had mentioned, 104 for enterocosi, 1,000 for fecal coliform. And, this has been going on for years that we knew there was a problem. We could see it, from the tests that were done at 14A, but I have to say, this is probably the closest we've come to trying to narrow the area to, figure out what the source is. And I think we can do it.
I wonder if this is related to the, drastic increase in the rain and the groundwater's up, so more septics are overflowing, during dry periods.
Well, we've been having for years, I know you've heard me mention the pattern at the outfall has always been when there's a direct sample, we get high bacteria levels.
But
That's right out of the pipe.
Exacerbated by the rising water table is what I'm suggesting.
It's been high for years. So we just haven't done this kind of very focused testing on Glenwood Road. It just hasn't been done.
I see. So why was it done now? You just had the money and the time, or?
No, the coalition has been springing for what is costing to do this
Right.
in terms of time. And Nassau County Department of Health has been wonderful. I don't know how much longer they'll do it, but they've been accepting our samples both for the work we've done in Glen Cove and also for this. And then, of course, we've had, Rocco from Glen Cove on the other problem, the sewer line break, and Dan in both cases, but Dan has been really focused with us on Glenwood Landing because Glenwood Road is a county road. So what prompted it was really seeing what raw sewage from the Glen Cove experience, what does raw sewage look like when it goes into a water body? We were getting similar numbers that I was seeing that made us suspect something was really wrong in Glen Cove Creek and then following it further up to Mill Pond. Those kinds of numbers were coming out of the pipe in Glenwood Landing. And that's what prompted, and we had already been trying to think about whether getting some kind of end of pipe, this was, I don't even know, was this during the pandemic, Eric, when we were talking about a possible filtration system at the end of the pipe, and we were doing extra testing there just to even see whether it would work.
I think that was prior to that, actually.
Yeah, so we decided to just really try to focus on this and see if we could get to the source. So I don't know if that helps everybody get an idea of where, how, and how we're proceeding. And then I guess it would help Eric. It was just, through a stroke of luck with timing and everything else that this other opportunity came up. So do you want to go on to
Yeah,
the next with Harkin?
thank you, Carol. I mean, I just wanted to give everybody the overview of what the problem is and what we're doing so far to try to track it down. But during this, we did get in touch with Scott Harrigan from Harkin Aerial in Oyster Bay to explore the possibility of using a new technology, which has not been used too many places around here, of using, he'll explain it to you, basically a drone with a thermal imaging camera that can spot illicit discharges. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott. Let me just see here if, hold on a second. He has given us a proposal. So I'm going to, Scott, I'm going to make you a co-host. And Ned, unless you have, Ted, do you have something to share? Otherwise, you can just chime in. So hold on a second. Okay, Scott.
And while you're doing that, Eric, I can just kind of start with a little bit of background here.
Okay, you're now a co-host.
Great, yeah. So first off, thank you everyone for having me tonight, and this is kind of some good timing here. First off, just real quick, we actually are. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. Actually, just come back today from presenting this work at a stormwater conference that we had here. So the timing was great, and this is kind of a particular project we've been building on with a variety of different communities. Our long story short is that we're perfecting a method to fly with a drone equipped with a thermal camera and identify sources of illicit discharges based on heat alone. So this is a little different of an approach than the water sampling efforts, in that where the water sampling efforts are showing you specific bacteria levels, we're going to qualitatively fly over the area and look at any areas where we might have hot spots. And it's very easy to see two things. It's very easy to see, for example, the creek that is looking like an issue. It's easy to see if there's any water discharging into that creek, because water is a very good emitter of thermal radiation. And it's also good to see if there are any areas that are moist from a septic system leak or septic system issues. We would also see that, because moist ground shows up differently on a thermal camera. What I think would be helpful is, rather than explain it, I can just briefly show you some quick examples of what the thermal photos look like. I think that helps everyone get a better idea of what this technology can do, what it looks like, and you'll understand that it's another tool in the toolbox. It's not a surefire way to see if we have an issue or not, but we will see areas of increased temperature and increased activity. And the hope is that we could correlate that with the efforts that Carol and Dan have done in water sampling. This is the kind of technology I'd say I would not deploy this as the first one. I'd say do water sampling efforts first, and that's clearly been done. So knowing that that's been done, I think this is a great use case for it, especially with the stream area. It's kind of that classic example we're looking at, where you have, a body of water, a bunch of properties behind it, difficult to reach, difficult to get back there, as receptive as the neighbors have been, and, a fairly long linear run that may be difficult to look at on foot. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And this is actually just from the presentation we had earlier today. So hopefully you can see my PowerPoint screen here. So when we have anomalies on thermal, the best case scenario is that they look like this. For example, this is a leak. This is a curb valve leak, though this is drinking water, not sanitary. But this is one we identified in New Paltz in 2018. And what's happening here is we've got a leak. The leak has presented itself to the surface, and we see this hot spot that is unlike any other signature that we can account for. You can also see that manhole activity. While we can't see through the manhole with thermal, we can generally see if there's flow through a manhole or not, based on the relative how lit up it is. So thermal is a great way to determine the activity of all the areas here, and then also correlate it with any leaks or any issues we might find. Where I think we're looking at is something more like this. This is a shallow sanitary line we saw in New Paltz, and this is what we want to see. If it's shallow enough that we can see a sanitary line in thermal, we'll see this nice clean line that goes across. If there were a blob or an organic looking shape anywhere around this, this is where we'd see a leak. This is where we'd think there's an issue. And then one more photo just to kind of show you is one, this is looking at the stream, what we would hope we could see something like this. This was a pipe discharge we had found that ended up being a permitted discharge. But nonetheless, this is basically a pipe that was leading over to a creek. And in this specific scenario, it was discharging intermittently. And even though it wasn't discharging at the moment that we're flying over it, that signature remains for a few hours after discharge. So where this tool really helps is if it's an intermittent problem, or if it's a problem that's happening on some kind of cyclical period, we may be able to catch that even if we're not flying in the moment that it's happening. And that's where the thermal technology is really shining. But this is one of those scenarios where, you know, we have water sampling, we know where to start looking, which is kind of half the problem in these when we've done these flights previously. And I'd say in terms of what we're hoping to get out of it, I'm more confident in looking at the creek side of things. The Larson is definitely something we would incorporate into it. But just to explain where this wouldn't answer your problem is if we do have illicit hookups that are still completely underground and, you know, happening in those manholes and getting carried out to the outfall, we may not see that because the issue does have to present itself on the surface. But a septic leak, a septic system that's overflowing, that's a classic scenario where we would expect we'd certainly see that, because that's going to come up to the surface, if not the water, the heat difference. That's a general overview here. That's my portion. I think I actually, Ted just let me know he had a meeting conflict and had to hop off, but I can just tell you we've worked with Walden before on this stuff. Harkin does the thermography and the flying, so, you know, we're qualified to fly over the areas, look at thermal anomalies, give you a GPS latitude and longitude of where that anomaly is, and say, hey, this is something that looks weird, go look at it. We worked with Walden before, and what they've done is they've done the field work, reviewed water sampling efforts, and kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together to make a more formal recommendation. So I'm a drone pilot and a thermographer, but I'm not a PE, I'm not a water engineer. So that's where you see those two line items for Harkin and Walden. And I believe where we left off, you know, I let the Hempstead Harbor Protection Committee decide, you know, if we want to just do the drone flight, have Walden's recommendations, or do both. We could certainly do one after the other, depending on what we find. And in general, one thing is previously we've rented this camera because it's expensive. I'm happy to say we now own this thing. So for the price and for the project we put there, I would expect we'll fly multiple mornings to just try and get the best chance of seeing a discharge or catching something going on here. We're also, just last part on timeline, this would be something we'd want to do probably before May. The biggest reason is tree cover. When the trees start to bloom, it gets a lot harder to see stuff. And I can tell from the satellite imagery that that creek goes through a somewhat wooded area. So leaves off is really the right time to look at this. And the second reason is the closer we get to summer, the less there's a difference between ground temperature and water temperature, and the harder it is to spot a difference. This picture you're looking at here was taken in May, so we can see things in May, even getting to June, but we would think April is the right time to do this.
Okay. I can share the cost proposal following this. If Ted, do you want to speak about what you can offer, because that's an option? Well, actually, let me share the price proposal first, so people can get an idea. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Okay. Can everybody see this?
Yep.
And just explain this here, you know, the billable tasks is what the price would be to Hempstead Harbor Protection Committee. On the Harkin end, the in-kind contribution is on top of doing thermal imaging, we would also contribute what we call orthomosaic mapping, right? So the drone flies over the air with the visual camera, and we stitch that together into a high resolution updated aerial of the whole area. Essentially what you're looking at on Google Maps, but yeah, it's a 10 times the resolution and a aerial captured, you know, that day instead of likely several years out of date what we've got on Google Maps. That we find helps add context, and even if in the worst case, if the results are inconclusive, you have an updated map of the area, you have better lay of the land, and we always provide that at this point as a contribution, because we find it's almost as helpful as the thermal imaging sometimes in the long run. Just to see what the conditions look like, see updated map of the whole area. And as you continue to do your sampling efforts, at least it helps you recon the area a little better, at the very least.
Okay. Ted, do you want to add anything to the option for doing the engineering report?
I think Ted just texted me. Unfortunately, I think he just had a meeting
Okay.
conflict they had to, since we just with the
Okay.
timing there. But I will, if you'd like, if you don't have Ted's email already, I'll share it with you, and I know he'd be more than happy to answer any questions that
Okay.
come in.
All right. Does anybody have any questions of Scott? Because if you don't, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Scott in the waiting room, and we can discuss whether we wish to proceed with this, because obviously time is of the essence, as Scott meant, and then we can bring him back in and let him know what we've decided.
Eric, I just have one question. I think we had discussed this previously as to Scott, as to whether the work by Walden, you say it's optional, but it's something also that could be added on if it's deemed necessary at a later point.
Yes, yeah, that would be, and I've talked to Ted and talked to Walden. That's absolutely an option we could go with. That way, if we see nothing and it's completely inconclusive, we wouldn't expect you to bear that cost.
But my understanding is that if we were going to use Walden, they would really need to be out in the field with you when you did the flying.
Not in the sense of they're going to get the imagery no matter what. I will be, out there if I see something, I'm going out. We're taking pictures. And secondly, if there was something that we found that was, a high priority. Honest answer is we'd consult with Walden, even if you guys didn't, go for that option there. And if there was anything time sensitive, we'd make sure that was addressed regardless of whether you chose that or not. That's kind of how I think the right way to go about this is.
Okay. Any other questions for Scott? Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, this is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. What is the Walden in-kind contribution?
The Walden in-kind contribution is as any engineering hours and such to do, should they need to do field follow-ups and that kind of work. So that would include site visits here, as well as reviewing of the water sampling plans there. But I will say I would defer to Ted, where he could give you a full list there.
Okay, so you're saying that Walden is going to go in the field and do any kind of report and field study for $1,200?
For this right here, for this particular project, yeah. And where that comes from is that we're looking to, this is technology we worked on together. Frankly, when we see this kind of stuff, this is an opportunity we want to, work with, because we think the timing on this is pretty correct.
I have to withdraw you from co-host, I think, in order to put you in the waiting room. Hold on a second.
No problem.
Okay. All right, if there's any other questions, if not, I'll put Scott in the waiting room. All right, we'll get back to you, Scott. Okay. All right, hold on a second.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't understand the chart table, the costs and the in-kind services. The whole thing is a little mystifying.
I know.
You want to discuss that next, right? The costs.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay,
again.
sorry.
That's okay. This is crazy here. Okay.
There it is.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get this other thing off the. Hold on a second. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what the in-kind contribution is. I mean, it's their own time, I guess, in hours and all that. So, I mean, that's really immaterial to us. I think the only question really is, you know, do we want to spend the 1,500? Is that worth it? Do we want to, you know, at this point,
Okay.
also add 1,200? You know,
We're just looking at column 1 then.
yes. I mean, to me, I think it's money well spent. I think that, you know, they did a similar study, a much more extensive one in Oyster Bay and Cold Spring Harbor. And so that's how I became aware of their, you know, technology. And
And
I think
they
that-
found stuff there? Useful?
well, they did find in one location, they found what looked like you know, a discharge behind a restaurant, and then went in the field and looked and dug it up, and sure enough, there was a sewer pipe that was discharging into a stream. It turns out that upon further investigation, that was a legal discharge. They had a permit for it, but they were able to see, you know, a buried pipe that was discharging into a stream. So the technology does work, but you know, we don't know. There's no guarantees. But you know, we've been spending a lot of time and effort for years now trying to do this, and that stream is you know, a little more problematic than just going in the street and opening up a manhole. And we know that there are a lot of you know, septics in that area. So I think, you know, at least for $1,500, it's money well spent.
Eric, sorry I was late. They're a private company?
Yes.
Thanks.
So your recommendation is to do forget about Walden, not necessarily worry about that at this point.
I would say so. I mean, if we could, you know, if we need to, if they find something, we want to be able to document it more and look into it more, then we could always go with the additional 1,200.
If I may,
Sorry, this is Kevin from Town of North Hempstead. This doesn't have to go out to bid?
Well, I'm glad Bruce is on here. I mean, I would treat them as a sole source because I don't think there's anybody else in the Northeast that does this. I mean, it's really only been done a few times in this area. I mean, the only other time on Long Island that I'm aware of is the Oyster Bay Cold Spring Harbor study that they did. And they are a local firm, and we do know them.
so as it relates to that, I don't see it making sense to send someone up with a drone to send pictures without a professional evaluation of what it is they found, just leaving it up to the committee to figure that out. I think there's real value in the report at the end. And when you combine those two services together, you certainly have something unique as far as the sole sourcing it.
Well,
it doesn't make-
they give a thermal review, isn't that what we're looking for?
Yeah.
He seemed to indicate that we would get a lot of information just from him.
Well, for my looking into this over the last few years, I think not only you need certain expertise, not only do you need the expertise of the drone pilot to know where to go, when to go, and all that kind of stuff, but the interpretation of the data is critical because there can be false positives. You really have to know what you're looking at when you look at those thermal images. And I think that's where Walden comes in best, is that they're able to read that data, you know, better than Harkin could. And that's obviously, that's why Harkin's using them, because they don't have that expertise in-house.
All right, so then we're looking for 2,700.
Yeah,
That would
because
be-
then you have a tangible product when you're done.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
One thing though, if I can just say, I've worked with Walden. I'm just gonna be very careful of what I say. All I want to see though is that you get information that you can act on quickly. And it's the word quickly that I'm concerned about. So just, you know, I could talk to you more, Eric, afterwards, but yeah.
And
Yeah,
to Rocco's point, I know exactly what he's talking about, and I echo those sentiments.
And to further that point, this is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead, has worked with them in both public and private sector. I'm just going to say we need to discuss this further.
Is that still Joe Heaney running the company?
I
That's
believe
your boy.
I remember Joe.
But
So
if
did
he's,
I. I think I brought some samples into the lab from you.
Dear.
if the Ted that they're speaking of is Ted Nitza.
It is.
Yeah, my experience with him was that I did not get the product in the timeline I was expecting, but the end product I was very pleased with.
This is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. Once again, I just want to emphasize, because my procurement system at the town is probably different from the villages, although Harkin may have a unique sole source aspect, which is debatable because we really haven't looked into it. Walden certainly doesn't have a foothold on sampling in the environmental realm. It doesn't necessarily matter to me if it passes the Seacliff schedule for sampling in terms of what they're able to do. Maybe the threshold is small enough to where it doesn't matter. But once again, I just want to bring it up. If it was the town product, I might have to prove something else on the Walden side. I don't know if that's the case with Seacliff in terms of procurement.
Well, Walden would not be doing any sampling. They're just interpreting the thermal images and writing a report.
Oh, I'm
And I
sorry.
don't-
I was under the impression that they were ready to go sample if necessary.
No, I don't believe they're going to do any sampling. That they're pointing out to us, and if we want to do sampling once after we get their results, that would be up to us.
Okay, I'm sorry. I guess I'm confused with what the gentleman said there.
Did he say it would be interpretation of the data that was collected through the thermal imaging photography?
Yes.
Is that-
I mean, that's what they did in Oyster Bay, Cold Spring Harbor, and prepare the report. That's some, with, and with recommendations and, and all of that.
All right, Eric, the line item says field study.
Well, I know that they would be going out with, if we retain them in the beginning, they would be going out with Harkin when they do the thermal imaging, so.
Did we get clarity on that, or?
I mean, I do have the proposal, the whole proposal here. We can take a look at it.
Bring the guy in and ask him. I'm not going to
Uh,
review the report right now.
Well, all right, then I have to put them back in the waiting room afterwards. We can do that. Hold on a second.
I mean, it's up to committee. I just want a clarification. If the committee doesn't feel they need clarification, that's fine. It's up to the committee.
I'll bring them in. We can ask them.
Eric, how do you feel about it? Do you think we need it?
I do,
All right, I'm going with you.
but we can ask him. Hold on a second. Scott, are you back?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, we haven't made a decision yet. We had a question we wanted to ask you regarding Walden's role.
Sure.
Can you explain a little bit more about exactly what they would be doing if we retain them at the same time?
Sure, yeah. Well, what they would, and again, I can speak to my understanding of it, but I would defer to Ted. But it would be the report writing, essentially the same report that was created from the Oyster Bay Cold Spring Harbor Protection Committee. So those full reports would be what they'd produce, which would include whether they need to do field work to write those reports and make those recommendations or not, as I understand.
This is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead, Scott.
Yeah.
So just for clarity, and I had this question, that $1,200, they're going to go out into the field if it's necessary to do what?
Yeah, to take a look and basically follow up on the ground with areas that we flag as an anomaly on thermal that we, as in Harkin, recommends is an area that should get an investigation, right? So essentially an anomaly that we can't figure out an explanation to from the drone. We'd then refer to Walden and say, well, this is a spot you should look at. This is a spot you should go in person and investigate.
Okay, so it doesn't include sampling. I guess sampling would be an additional service or
Sampling would be an additional. Yep, it would just be essentially a site investigation visually on the ground there. And if sampling were required, they would make that recommendation, I'm sure.
and I'm
Scott.
assuming that would be another charge.
I would assume yes.
Hey,
Yes, they
Scott,
did
this is
sample.
Rocco from the city of Glen Cove.
Yes.
I'm a little slow.
No worries.
Let me ask you, when you're done with your role, will you convey any information to the committee so they can begin to act on it? Or do we have to wait for Walden to give us a report so we can act on it?
No, you would not have to wait for Walden to act on it. So we would give it a list of anomalies. We'd give a list and say, look, these are the thermal issues we've spotted. Saying, Harkin, we're not water engineers. We don't know what these are, but these are a list of spots that if you wanted to go and, investigate yourself from there, be our guest. If you felt that was something you'd want to have Walden do and offer more formal recommendations on what to do after looking at those thermal images and those spots, then that would be Walden's role. But no, we would gladly, under Harkins, we would take all the photos, circle the spots in the thermal imagery, give you GPS latitude and longitude, this spot we saw an anomaly, and then take that as you will.
Scott, Bruce Kennedy from Seacliff. If we were to go with the whole package with you and with Walden, what is the timeline for the Walden to provide the report?
That I would have to, I would want to defer to Ted, but I would expect that they could get that done within 30 days.
And would you be comfortable with no payments being made until that report is provided?
I'm comfortable with that on my side. That's, we're here. We're not, we're local, so it's not like we're looking for a deposit or anything on this, and we own the equipment. So previously all our upfront costs were to the rental and we don't have those. So, we're happy to go out and do this just to go do it. So that's fine by us.
Any other questions? I'll put Scott back in the waiting room. All right, we'll see you in a little while, Scott.
Okay. No problem.
Okay.
Was that wrong of me?
No, that's.
It's like a good idea to me.
We have questions. They should have been clarified. There's no problem, Bruce.
Just so everybody knows, I mean, we have plenty of money to do this right now. We just got 3 payments in, one from NIFWIF for $75,000, and we got 2 payments from New York State under the Marcelino grant. So we're very good now. We have cash flow, and enough to carry us through to when dues start coming in and more. So the affordability is not an issue.
This is Kevin from North Hempstead. If you're looking for a motion, go ahead and acquire these companies to do this work. I'll make that motion. I would probably just stipulate, and not necessarily for the record, that well, I guess it's recorded, but I don't think it's going to end here. But for the price, I don't think it's much of an issue. I just am cautiously optimistic that the Walden aspect will or might lead to additional expenses, which would probably have to come back to the committee. That being said, I'll make a motion to go ahead and hire Harkin with the option of Walden for $2,700, if that's an appropriate motion.
That is appropriate. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah, and just so you know, Kevin, I mean, with the much more extensive study in Oyster Bay, Cold Spring Harbor, Walden did not come in for any extras.
Yeah, that may be your experience, but not mine, Eric.
Okay. I think, you know, they probably look at us as a little different, but okay, I'm gonna bring Scott in and let him know, and then we'll take it from there. Are you back, Scott?
Yep, just joined you.
Okay, just want to let you know, we did just take a vote, and we have opted to go for the full package. the,
Okay.
Harkin and Walden.
Got it.
So,
Well, great to hear. And what we'll do is we can send an updated proposal as soon as possible, that we just go on a signature from that. And on my end, that would be all I need to proceed. I would have Ted reach out to you with any information they need, but as far as the Harkin end there, that's all we need to go forward.
Scott, could you put in the proposal a timeline of when you'll have the task completed?
Yes, we certainly can do that.
And we'd love to see it stay at that 30 days you're looking at.
Understood.
Thank you.
all right, thank you. I mean, Scott, you're welcome to stick around, or, but we do have a lot of other business that we have to attend to, so we understand if you want to take off.
If okay with you, I'd love to stick around. I'm curious to hear about the septic grant program and all that stuff.
Okay. All right, as you can see the agenda here, we are quite a bit over time, so I want to move somewhat quickly with this. As you may have known, may have seen from emails, the the shellfish density survey has been submitted to us by Cash and Associates. I did review it and gave some comments. Those comments were incorporated, and now we have a draft survey. Basically, there were, I did send around some of the more salient points came out of the survey. In general, to summarize, there's a lot in there. The clams were more widely distributed in this year than when we did it in 2013. The clams were found at 37 stations out of the 61 sampled. In 2013, there were only 28 stations. The overall density was 44.5 clams per square meter compared to 1.7 in 2013 and 1.6 in 2008. But those numbers are skewed because of the fact that there was one area where they found 113.2 clams per square meter at one station just below Bar Beach. That was the highest density of clams ever recorded by Cashin in multiple surveys conducted in Long Island waters. There's a lot of clams in that one area. It looks like the harvesting pressure doesn't appear to have significantly affected the overall density of clams in the area, but while the numbers of clams are healthy and appear sustainable, the number of seed clams has declined. Most of the clams that they found were larger, older, and this does not bear well for the long term. This shows the need for more seeding. They looked at the sediment types in all of the areas that they surveyed, and 35% of the sites were predominantly muddy, and 16% were very muddy. Their sediment analysis showed that where seeding would most tend to be successful. There were fortunately, no exceptionally dense populations of predators were found. And in the survey, they did not find any oysters, but the divers that they sent down did find a small population of large, older oysters off of Sands Point. So that gives you a big general overview. This is turned out to be very fortuitous because, as you know, since last year, we've been working with Congressman Swazi on a proposal he had to do a seeding program on the whole of North Shore, which would be basically managed through the Hempstead Harbor Protection Committee. Last week, we heard that from the congressman that this was successfully included in this year's proposed federal budget. That budget has not been, going all the way through and signed by the president yet, but it looks like there will be $300,000 in there for this shellfish, planting, program. That's not just for Hempstead Harbor, but for the whole North Shore. I don't know if Manhasset Bay would qualify or be interested, but Oyster Bay Harbor is certainly a possibility. And we did talk at one point to the town of Huntington about Huntington Bay, and they did express some interest, but then didn't get back to us. So that still has to be worked out. If we do the seeding, it would really be in the fall. Whether it's this fall or the following fall, that remains to be seen. It's fortunate that we did this study because now we have a basis to know where we can put them, because we know the bay bottom and we know where there's populations and all of that. I did outreach to the town of Oyster Bay because they have a shellfish hatchery and are in the process this year of greatly expanding that hatchery to see whether they would be interested in providing the shellfish seed to us. They're looking into that. They haven't gotten back to us. I don't know if Sarah, maybe have you heard anything today? Because this was only in the last day or so that I followed up with the commissioner.
I know that our department is currently talking about it, and it's leaning more towards the direction of yes, but I am going to wait on my commissioner to give the final say on that. So I will certainly get back to you as soon as I hear.
I mean, I think it would be nice to support one of our members and it's also good to have locally raised seed, so you're not drawing the potential of bringing in any diseases from another area. But that's something that we need to, there's obviously a lot to be worked out. I mean, this is a good program, and obviously this DEC permits are needed, but I think that, we've crossed the biggest hurdles yet is appear to with obtaining the funding and having the study that we've done. So
I will get back to you on that item as well as the map that Carol requested earlier in our meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it is a draft study. So in order for it to be finalized, I mean, we need to vote as a committee to accept the report. I did send it around to everybody. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it or you want more time to look at it, but if not, then we can,
Eric, I have some, I was just going to ask you about that because I went through it. I think there are some areas that need clarification, and I can go through that with you. Just a couple of things, probably mostly in the appendices and the attachments on sediments. So I can talk with you about that later.
Okay, yeah, we'll put off the finalization of this at least until the next meeting, and the more input the better. I mean, we want a good report, and
right.
I'm sure Cash will be glad to do that and all of that.
I think they did an excellent job in outlining everything.
Yeah.
And I think it was fortunate that we had them to be able to go back to exactly the same stations so that we can really compare from, the last two surveys that were done to see how things are shaping up now. So
it gives us another good picture of the harbor and what
it was pretty astounding. I thought that the seed clam population decreased to only 8% of the entire population. That was striking, and that was the reason we were concerned and kept pushing to get the permit from DC to do this survey, because this was exactly what we thought was happening and why we were saying we needed to have a seeding program.
Right.
Carol and Eric, this is Kevin from the town of North Hempstead. It sort of reminds me that the fact that seed clams aren't there necessarily because bigger clams are. I believe that is the case, or I've heard of it in the past, that the number of seed clams aren't there because the larger clams are taking its place, and that the process changes as you seed, as you remove more of the larger clams. So maybe the absence of the seed clams, what I'm trying to say is basically because you have big clams, you don't have small clams.
Well, I'm not an expert, but it's the larger clams that spawn to create the seed clams.
Right. I mean, the conclusion was that it's an aging population and that percentage is too low to sustain that resource. And it really has gone down significantly from the 2008, where in 2008, that population was already low. And that was the first warning we had, and then went down again in 2013. So this was pretty dramatic to go down that low.
Yeah, just for clarification, because I don't think I looked at the full report yet, but the areas that have the low densities, and maybe you guys can tell me, if not, it's going to take me a while to get back, are the areas that aren't harvested now or are harvested?
Larger density in the uncertified area.
Right, so bigger clams that are not being harvested leads to less seed clams. No?
Actually, if you look at, Kevin, when you get a chance, they actually put in charts by size. And when you're looking at the density, it's unbelievable in the lower harbor that, yes, there's a tremendous amount of clams more than the certified area, but there's a balance of size, if you know what I mean. So it's not just that there are more clams in the uncertified area and they're larger, there's a balance there.
Right, I guess I'm just trying to figure out where the seed clams are and where they're not. And if that is related to the areas that are unharvested and bigger clams. I looked at the report, but I didn't look at it from that perspective yet. I just think I'd be interested, because you could throw as many clams as you want in the water. If there's not the correct substrate and not the correct environment, it's not going to take.
Absolutely, which is, we lost a lot on one seeding because of that. A lot ended up in the mud. So, but now we have the substrate, it's all delineated, which is great. They've really mapped that out now. So the seeding can be targeted.
Yeah, well, when we did that seeding and we lost the clams, that was basically based on, I think it was Cornell Cooperative Suffolk sent some divers down and looked around. It wasn't a comprehensive overview of the bottom of the harbor. So I think we have that now. We know where the areas that are suitable. I mean, you can't get better than that. I mean, that's the best you can do, is with a comprehensive survey of the bottom and the sediment types and,
right,
you know, and where the populations are working. So that's something that you know, we'd have to design around. Okay, I want to move on because we've got a lot here and we've already taken a lot of time. So as you recall, on at the last meeting, just prior to the meeting, the DEC announced that it was coming out. It came out with its draft new 5-year MS4 permit. And at that point, we hadn't had a chance to really look at it because it was just like a day or two before, or maybe even the same day. I've been spending a lot of my time since then going over the 170-page draft permit. I also looked at all the permits from 5 adjoining states and have been working with the other protection committees, with the Coalition of Safe Hempstead Harbor, with some of the consultants that have been working on this, and with the statewide stormwater coalition that is also reviewing and commenting on the draft permit. We immediately asked for more time. We asked for April 15th to extend the deadline. The DEC did not grant that, but they did extend the deadline until March 22nd. So we now have a pretty comprehensive set of comments that we have, you know, pretty much ready to go. I did send from time to time the revised versions to all of you. that this is a major change for everybody. It's going to be require a lot more personnel, a lot more money if it's implemented the way that they propose it. And a lot of it we think is overkill and is not going to accomplish much for all the work that they require. I did also put together a template letter for some of the smaller municipalities so they could use that to express their concerns about the proposed permit. Basically, we're ready to send comments. If anybody has any additional comments that they would like, I'd be glad to send the latest draft around again. But I think we're almost ready to go, and it's really due within the next week. So, just to let you know on that.
Another 20 minutes.
Okay, Kevin, you want to talk about the executive director search?
Yes, this is Kevin with North Hempstead again. So for those who have been on a committee and those who haven't, we tried to do the best with what we could. I put the job requirements, job availability on a bunch of different sites, provided it to a bunch of different contacts. And the end result, I did a 4-day ZipRecruiter free online posting, and it didn't amount to anything really. With all due respect, I am not even going to bring the applicants forward because most of them are house cleaners, carpenters, and anybody who saw the salary and said executive director, that fits me. That being said, if we want to move forward, and for Eric's sake, I think we do, I believe we should create a budget in which we can advertise it. I checked the variable ranges of fees, and it goes between $12 and $16 a day, approximately ballparking it $400 a month. I have my credit card information already on ZipRecruiter. So if we need to go forward, if we want to go forward via the online job search engines, job recruiting companies, we need to create a budget, and I'm going to be assured that I will get paid in a timely fashion, as the committee doesn't have a credit card, and I don't exactly have a lot of money either. Does anybody have any questions?
Kevin, what would you
Bueller?
suggest for the length of time?
To be honestly, enough to find the correct candidate or an appropriate candidate to get Eric off the hook. But I think we should at least start with a month. I will say
And
this,
then-
4 days didn't produce anything.
So does it make sense to start off with like a couple of months and just as needed, but at least the starting budget will take you, let's say, through May?
I think that's good. And I think maybe, I don't know if this committee is ready to decide what online search or job posting agency they should go forward with. I don't care. But I think we should at least set up a budget. I think, to be honest with you, and I'm just spitballing here, I think 3 months, $1,200. I mean, it seems like a lot, but I just want to find a candidate for Eric, and I can shut it down at any time,
Right.
or I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, I just want to point out that, this committee does not meet in June, July, or August, unless we have to call a special meeting. So, if we can find, that means if we don't find somebody by, our May meeting, we may have to wait until September to act on anybody that comes forward. So I would suggest that we do an all-out search if we can, you know, we could authorize Kevin for, you know, up to 3 months, but he can do it like 1 month at a time or a week at a time or whatever and see what kind of response. You know, and I would say, you know, not limit it to, you know, ZipRecruiter. I mean, there are others out there that just give a budget to, you know, advertise and let him decide what he wants to try and for how long, up until that budget amount.
I think
All right,
that
I'll-
makes sense.
I'll make the motion for the 3 months.
That's Ian?
Yes. It
3
sounds
months.
reasonable. Up to 3 months at Kevin's discretion.
3 months at 400 a month.
Right.
Do you think it should have a do not exceed limit? Or are you just gonna go, because the
Well, that's
different
what
search
it is,
engines
up
have,
to, yeah.
okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who's that?
Sarah.
Oh, Sarah.
Yep, I lose out. I was muted.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, thank you, Kevin. And as I pointed out, you know, I'm willing to stick on, you know, until we find somebody. I mean, you know, I do want to make sure that whoever does this is, you know, is going to be good for the committee. Carry on the work that I've been working on for 19 years. You know, we put a lot of effort into this and we want the committee to continue to succeed. So thank you, Kevin, for all your efforts and all the other people on the committee. All right, just quickly on the proposed Joint Protection Committee meeting. I did announce it the last time that we zeroed in on a date, we believe May 12th, but to be honest with you, not much has happened since the last meeting. I think we've all been preoccupied with the MS4 permit and all that, but just some of the you know, topics that were suggested, which we haven't zeroed down in or added to or come up with speakers or an agenda, were Beacon Hill, the Beacon Wind construction in Long Island Sound, sugar kelp harvesting, the progress of Nassau and Suffolk sub-watershed septic plans, the update on the New York State budget for clean water initiatives, discussion of the proposed $4 billion New York State Environmental Bond Act, which may be $5 billion now, reports from harbor groups on current issues of interest, the Nassau 9-element plan, the pathogen TMDL update, the new MS4 permit update, update on septic grant programs, and Oyster Bay's shellfish hatchery expansion. So those are what we were throwing around, and I guess I'm just gonna have to touch base with everybody again and see if we can, you know, zero this in and come up with a program for next month. It'll be coming up quickly. The shellfish seeding grant, I sort of alluded that to, I mentioned that before with the Representative Swazi's federal budget allocation. I also understand, and I don't know if Kevin, if you've heard this yet, but apparently in that same budget, there's $1 million for the improvements to North Hempstead Beach Park. So that's very good news. The other thing I wanted to go over, I did at the Nassau County Soil and Water Conservation District, we've got some new employees, one of which is very good at graphic design. So I asked them to just take a look at a logo and see if he can come up with a new logo. And he has come up with a few different designs. This one and this one are pretty much the same except for the color on the top. And then this one's a little bit different, you know, but so I wanted to see if people are interested in changing the design. If so, which one, or and all of that. So I'll open it up to discussion.
I think that one's the best.
This one?
Yep. The next one is too dark. And the other one has these nebulous species that we don't even have on the harbor. So as a biologist, I don't like that one at all.
Invasive species.
Well, they're not, I mean, the cattails are freshwater only, which I guess you could stretch it, and those animals are of no species whatsoever. They're made up. Duck, goose, I don't even know what they are.
They look like the evil Canadian goose to me.
No, come on. What are they, albino version?
Pretty fat.
Maybe,
too.
maybe you could put a hunter in there.
I think they're non-conforming, non-binary.
More right.
You know what their
Bir-
pronouns
birds.
are?
Bird/duck/
So is everybody good with
Yeah.
this one?
Yes.
This is Kevin
Looks
from the
good to
town of
me.
Northampton said, I'm okay with the original.
What do people think?
I like it as a poster. I'm just wondering, when you shrink it to put it on a web page or on the header of a document, how will that show if you're shrinking the whole thing? Will the text still be visible? That's my only concern.
Well,
Good point.
what I can do is we can put this off until the next meeting. I can have him, put it on letterhead, see what it looks like. I also want to see, what does it look like when it's copied in black and white? Is it still legible? Does it still look good? That kind of thing.
And should we get rid of this thing that looks like an illicit discharge here?
That's going to go free.
You can certainly see where people's priorities are here.
Is that powerhouse strain?
That's right.
You got any sailors, they might not like the boat.
They left out the outfall.
We can put that in there.
Maybe that's the infrared imagery that we're going to be getting.
I was just about to say, if you want to replace the bird with the drone logo, I'm all for that. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that's supposed to be the bald eagle, the bird. I need a birder to tell
Well,
me.
that's the wings of an osprey. So there you go.
Yeah, I think you could pass for an eagle. Definitely not a vulture.
I asked him to put the bald eagle in there.
Yeah, I think that this guy at the right posture.
All right, well, I will have him, work it up a little bit more. Hold on a second, that's a long thing here. Okay. All right. Carol, do you want to briefly go into some?
Yes,
water
I'll
quality
just buzz through. We're still doing the winter monitoring in addition to this expanded and now the Glenwood Landing monitoring. And that the winter monitoring ends at the end of April. And can't believe we're already starting to gear up for the 2022 regular season. And the same with UWS. Everything's just starting for the new season. We had good news from the town of Oyster Bay that the town will be contributing a boat and a boat operator to help us out with the monitoring once again. And we're certainly appreciative of that. So that's all good news. And I'll just leave it at that for now. We'll continue on.
Okay, also, I want to let everybody know that the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation is now, asking for proposals for the next round of Long Island Sound Futures Fund grant. And at a webinar this week that Carol and I were on, and we did confirm with them that we are eligible to apply again. And we can apply for up to 100,000, which is what we got this last grant that will cover this fall to next spring. So this grant would be for the 2023 to 2024 season. So Carol and I are going to be working on that grant application. We anticipate it'll be pretty much continuing what we're doing now. You know, there may be some slight changes, but Karen and I got to go over that. And, you know, I think they like what we do, and we're good. So we're going to be working on that. All right. On the,
Quick question for Carol. Quick question for Carol. How
Sure.
are you how are you in terms of manpower or person power or woman power or whatever it is on the boat for water sampling?
We're good. We have a crew. What were you thinking?
It's come up in other circles, specifically Manhasset Bay, whether they have enough people to do it. So I was just inquiring.
Oh, because we have our crew for the regular program, and we're in the very beginning stages of the coalition collaborating with a professor from Hofstra. And so we may have an additional crew member to do what they need to do for sampling. So we're working all that out, but we have what we need, you know, to cover our programs. I didn't know if you were, okay, you're welcome.
Well, no, I may, the thing is, if you were short in some instances, not that I want this necessarily disseminated, but there may be an option for me to help out. But if it's no problem, then I'm not making an issue of it.
Oh, well, then that's good to know. Okay,
I've done
thank you.
I've done it for years in the past, and it's just I we'll see.
Okay, I can talk with you later about that, Kevin, too.
I think it'd be great to, you know, anybody that wants to go out and see what Carol does. I mean, it's great to know that, you know, and
Yeah,
see it.
I extended that invitation last year, and actually Lou took me up on it and joined us. So that was great.
Right. It was fantastic to see, because all this means nothing to a civilian, a land guy. And it was fantastic.
So, and we were happy to have him on board and put him to work.
And a nice lunch of fresh fish.
If I help out Carol, I'm bringing my striped bass pole.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime we have volunteers that we need to take us out, that's the agreement. They fish, we sample. So,
Yeah, I would consider that mandatory with me.
okay. It gives us great photos. It's a win-win.
Maybe next year we can roast a spotted owl.
Oh, God.
Make sure to give Kevin a bunker sandwich.
If you give me bunker, I'm shark fishing.
All right. I just wanted to point out that just the other day, and I think I sent this around to everybody, but there were two seals, dolphins spotted in Northport Harbor. So they
Yeah.
might be back. Keep an eye out for them.
Cool.
And keep an eye out for the ospreys. I see the nests are being fortified, and we're waiting to see them. They should be in town any day now.
Yeah, I thought I heard them.
Did you really?
I'm not sure though. But I did see 3 eagles over Cedarmere.
Yep.
They seem to be, I don't know, would that be young from last year with the adults?
Yes. Yeah, could be. The young come back.
All right. I'm glad Bruce is on. You still on, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm still on. I almost fell asleep, but I'm back.
Oh, I'm sorry if we're putting you to sleep, but
I didn't say you're putting me to sleep. I said I'm falling asleep. It's two
Okay.
totally different things.
I know it's getting late.
You sound like every woman I ever met.
The Scudder's Pond weir replacement. You know, I know that Delia DeRigi-Witten was able to get money into the county budget, the capital budget for the Scudder's Pond weir replacement, but I don't think the last I heard, the legislature hasn't appropriated it. Have you heard anything?
No, but I'll be speaking to her tomorrow and I'll find out.
Please do. I think she put 200,000 in there for it. So if we can get going on that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of going down there and cleaning it out.
Yep. All right, Dan, the 9-element plan, what can you say?
Okay, the Nassau County 9-element plan, which is the proposed nitrogen reduction plan. We should have a draft report to look at by the end of April, from what I understand. The DEC, along with the county and Dr. Goldberg's group out in SUNY Stony Brook, are working on fine tuning the elements and putting them together in one document that can be looked at quickly by the stakeholder group. So we're looking to probably have another 9-element stakeholder meeting at the end of April on Microsoft Teams to go over the draft final plan. Maybe get some quick comments. We're not looking to have a real thorough review of it. We believe we shared a lot of the information with the stakeholders, including obviously the protection committees on some of the public education components. And I appreciate the protection committees, work on that particular element. So again, we should have a draft by the end of April. The stakeholders review it real quick. And then after that, we'll proceed towards a final document that can be used by everyone when it comes to grant applications, because apparently that's going to be one of those questions that are going to be included in future grants. Is your grant or is your municipality have a 9-element plan? And apparently that would give more credence to the grant application being approved.
Will that draft be circulated before the stakeholder meeting?
Yeah, we're going to try to do that possibly a week before the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're not looking to have the document ripped up by the stakeholders. Again, we were very transparent with this process. So, minor things here and there, minor comments, but we really want to get this turned over and finalized as quick as possible in lieu of the MS4. And I know DEC has a stop date relative to when this contract needs to be completed. So we're getting to the end of the wire now.
Okay. Well, it's nice to wrap things up.
I guess indeed.
The last thing on water quality matters is the Nassau Septic Grant Program. And I'm happy to report, as of now, the county has 149 applicants for the 200 grants that are available. Some of them may drop out because we haven't heard from them for a while. The district is in the process of reaching out to everybody and seeing if they're still interested. But there have been 7 installations so far, including one of them at the Nassau County's first commercial installation at the Bridge Marina. And everything so far is going very well. Everybody that's put them in has been very happy with the procedure and with the grants, everything. There are 12 more that are in the process of being installed, and there's an additional 21 signed agreements to proceed. So things are working very well. In the last few weeks, the district has met with both the town of Oyster Bay and the town of North Hempstead's building departments, and brought them up to speed on what's been going on. Everybody's been very supportive once they realize about the program. Yesterday, the district met with the new Nassau County Controller, who we all know. She's Elaine Phillips, who used to be the mayor of Flower Hill. Who's always been very supportive of the program. As you know, the money is flowing through the county, and it's her office that will be paying out the grant funds. So there were a lot of different hurdles. This is different than anything the county has done. So we really had to work through their county payment system and all of that. So everything's working fine. And but I would say if anybody's interested, please apply for the funds. And while they're still there, we are working towards getting additional funds from the state and from the county. And we're hopeful in the next few months to hear about that, but nothing's certain until it's certain. So that's basically all we can say on the septic grant program. As far as the Nassau County Soil and Water Conservation District, besides the septic grant program, the district is right now out with soliciting requests for conservation projects for what they call Part C funding. You can apply. Municipalities and not-for-profits are in Nassau County are eligible to apply. The grants can be from $2,000 to $10,000. And it's pretty broad as to what you can apply for, but it does have to fit into certain criteria. And the applications are due by April 1st, which is coming up. There's a lot more detail required this year. I mean, as the program goes on, the program gets refined a little bit more to make it workable, but it's still one of the easiest grants application processes available. If anybody's got a proposal and they wish to discuss it with the district, this Friday between 12 and 2, the district will do some Zoom calls. If you sign up and you want to run a proposal by the district. So that's basically it on there. Friends of Cedarmere, Tom, you want to give us an update?
Yeah, well, we are applying for one of those grants. When they enlarged our parking lot, they did not make provision for the added drainage. We've been having gullying below the parking lot, and that goes into the pond. So we're hoping to get something in for 10,000 or thereabouts, but it's going to be tough. This kind of work is very expensive.
It's not just dealing with the draining, but also including a rain garden.
Rain garden would be this in lieu of a old-fashioned dry well, which probably wouldn't work there anyway because the groundwater is practically at the surface. That's the key.
This
Yeah.
job's been done already?
No,
No.
Did you ever think about porous pavement? There's a product called porous pavement where you don't
Well-
need a drain.
Theoretically, the lot is porous. It's pea gravel.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
but
think
they
that
actually make-
would probably be more expensive. I'm working on I'm on another board that's looking at the porous papers. It's a very involved process. I mean, it's good, but it's not cheap.
well, let me just tell you, as of yesterday, the Soil and Water District completed a porous pavement project with a Long Island Sound Futures Fund grant in Bayville at the Bayville Community Center to do a 10 by 20 foot porous pavement area. Cost $30,000.
Oh my God.
Partly,
Wow.
mostly because of a requirement for districts to use prevailing wages, which drives the price way up. So, yeah, I mean, and that to do, I hate to see what it would cost to do porous pavement in that whole parking lot. It's prohibitive.
Well, you have to do the prevailing wages for anything, whether it's porous or regular paving.
Not-for-profits don't.
Well, we're not paving though. Also,
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were paving and you were thinking about doing drainage, so that's why I brought it up.
no, but they enlarged the parking lot and it's got a surface which is gravel, but they didn't account for the increased runoff.
Right.
So,
Okay, that brings us to municipal updates. Kevin, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. This is Kevin from North Hempstead. Somewhat exciting, but a little bit premature news. The town will go to an RFP for shoreline restoration along the west side of Hempstead Harbor, along the shoreline trail area. Basically, I've been working on this for years, got grant money, and all the bells and whistles, and finally we've gotten through the point where we're going to put the design on the street. The hope is that this will take us from where our previous restoration ended, let's just say ballpark 2012, all the way down shore to the end of the town's jurisdiction in right before the viaduct. This is just the design portion, not the construction portion. Please don't get that confused. But the idea is that we're continuously moving down the shoreline to improve the tidal wetland from what previously was debris and other obstacles to a living, healthy shoreline again.
What happens where that garbage thing is?
That's not on the shoreline. That's uphill. And yeah, the SWAM is not going to go anywhere. Solid Waste Management Authority is not leaving. We built a trail around it. From the trail down to the water is approximately, it varies between 10 and 20 feet. So the hope would be that in areas that we can restore, we will. In areas that we have to provide riprap and other things, we will. That's what the designer will be providing us detail with.
Cool.
Okay, anything else, Kev?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Gary, Flower Hill? Is Gary on? I don't think so. Okay. Adam, Roslyn Harbor, anything?
No updates for Roslyn Harbor.
Okay. Rocco, Glen Cove.
No real updates, Eric. We're still waiting on the permits for Crescent Beach for that culvert and sand replenishment, so nothing really has moved.
Okay. Sarah, anything Oyster Bay?
The kelp at Tappan is growing extremely well. Steve is very happy about it. And I believe he'll be sharing pictures with the group at some point.
Excellent.
That's it.
Okay. Seacliff, Bruce or Tom?
Go for it, Tom. No update.
Is Tom muted or? Tom, I think you're muted.
I lost my picture. Yeah, I don't know anything, so I defer to Bruce.
Okay. All right, Ian, Roslyn.
What about Bruce?
Nothing new to report.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Yep.
Bruce deferred to you. You referred to Bruce. Deferred to Bruce.
Nothing in Roslyn,
All right.
nothing to report.
Okay. Nassau County, Dan?
No, well, we discussed Glenwood Road and the 9-element plan. So other than that, we're up to date.
Okay. And last but not least, Sands Point, Lewis?
Yeah, sorry I was late. I assumed you voted yes on my behalf.
Well, we don't vote on your behalf, but we had a quorum and we voted yes for the dues.
Okay, we're all in.
Anything new on in Sands Point?
Not that anybody wants to hear about it at 9 o'clock at night.
Okay. What do people feel about resuming in-person meetings versus continuing on Zoom?
I like Zoom.
I like Zoom too for now.
I vote for Zoom.
This is Kevin. I vote for in person.
There you go. We miss your face, Kevin, from town of North Hempstead.
Yeah, I hate the commute, but I think there's a lot of lost value in doing this online.
You know, Kevin, you know what I was thinking actually, because I was late tonight too, and if this wasn't on Zoom, I would have been walking in like around now. But you know, for the most part, we all got to know each other. Maybe what you do is kind of like once a quarter or twice a year or something like that, do it in person, just so people meet each other, and then the rest of them are on Zoom.
I was just gonna suggest that myself.
Well, I think the state law is going to prohibit us from doing that shortly, once we get the full reins. So I don't know if that's an option. He's just looking for options, I believe, just in the interim.
What, I don't follow you. What are they gonna prohibit?
Well, when
State law,
we're only able to do this because the state waived the normal requirements for in-person meetings. But I know there's been a lot of sentiment to sort of make this permanent, but who knows if they will.
Yeah.
So,
What about hybrids? Like if somebody can't make it, but they can go attend the Zoom?
I think the thing is, then you go, if you're like thinking of Kevin's point, want to be together, it's like you drag yourself down there and then you're sitting there looking at Eric and there's nobody else there.
Yeah, well,
yeah, and then it gets a little complicated when you're required to record it, but then not everybody's on the Zoom, and it's just the technology becomes a little complex. It's a little different when you got a speakerphone in front of you, but
You know, if you have the option, then maybe, you know, the first one when you come back after the summer, and then one other one, you know, this time it's spring year or whatever, you know, so you're not driving there in the snow, but
yeah.
how about this? How about we just focus on the next meeting, since we don't have the requirements yet, I think, and then we can deal with whatever future meetings we have.
So you're saying we should just decide whether we want the next meeting to be virtual or in person?
Right, yeah, because I don't know if the regulations are going to allow us to usurp the open meeting laws.
Right.
So I believe the next meeting is the one you should focus on.
So you're saying we should continue on Zoom next meeting because we can?
No, I'm saying that the people should decide whether they want to meet next meeting in Zoom or in person.
Okay.
you want to vote? Should we do some kind of a polling or vote on this right now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it'd be a vote.
Okay.
by April, who knows, the next variant might be out.
It is in Europe.
What?
It's rising in the last week in Europe. It's gone up. The infection rate's gone up 49%.
It's called
What
the
is
Putin
it?
variant.
Is it a new variant?
It's just, I think it's the B variant of the
Omicron.
the Omicron B version.
It's the Putin variant.
We're still
I'm
good
so
here.
done with this that I'm so done with any variant and anything we have to do. So let's just decide.
All right.
Eric, why don't you just say all those opposed?
Opposed to what?
To anything. You must be opposed to something,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
right?
All right.
Like, chocolate with peanuts, it's not very good.
You know what they say, Tom? Start every day with a smile and get it over with.
All right. How many want to do Zoom?
Aye.
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 How many want to do in person?
It was just Kevin and I. We'll see you on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, I
All
want to
right.
do it in person, and I'll vote to do it in person.
All right. You can come to my house. You'll be in person with me.
It'll be warm enough to barbecue.
Do you still brew beer?
I haven't in a long, long time. I want to, but. Okay, so next, we'll take it meeting by meeting, and we'll see what the state requirements are. So in April, we're gonna do Zoom. May, we don't normally have a meeting other than the Joint Protection Committee meeting, and then we've got June, so. All right, so thank you, everybody. I know it's been a long meeting, but we did finish before 9 o'clock, which if we were meeting in person, we would go to at least 9 o'clock. So thank you all. I think we covered a lot of ground tonight. And, you know, I guess I should have asked if there's any other business that we didn't go over. Just to remind everybody that the MS4 annual reports are due on June 1st. And I'll be sending information about the Joint Protection Committee meeting if that pans out. So thank you, everybody, and I appreciate everybody being here.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.